Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Rebecca Brandstetter,
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Sauter.
and we're really excited to dive in right away with what to do when your child's having a hard time. We've all been there. So, does any of this look familiar to you as a parent or a caregiver? I bet it does, because a lot of our students, our children, are acting out or shutting down. They're handling big feelings, big emotions. Maybe you have big feelings and emotions. I know I do. Big behaviors. Maybe they're camouflaging or hiding their feelings. And if we think about kids who are neurodivergent, kids with ADHD, with autism, with learning differences or disabilities, and anxiety, we really can have added layers onto parenting challenges. So, like I said, I'm Dr. Rebecca Brandstetter, school psychologist and mom of two. And look, I hear it all. It's really hard for kids.
And you're not alone. I know this firsthand. I'm Elizabeth Sauter, as a speech and language pathologist and mom of two neurodivergent, wonderful teen boys, and also being neurodivergent myself. And just so you know, these might be big jargony words that you haven't heard before. Maybe you're very familiar with them, but basically neurodiversity and neurodiverse is all of us. All of our brains are different in wonderful ways. And when they're neurodivergent, like mine with dyslexia, or some kids who might have differences in their communication style or their emotional regulation maybe is a little bit delayed, or having some learning differences, that's what we call neurodivergent. And that is what we're supporting every day, all day, both here at home for me and in my work. And so you're not alone, and your child is not broken. Absolutely not. They have wonderful gifts and strengths, and we want to focus on those and celebrate those and advocate for their needs. And you are doing the best that you can with the tools that you have as their coach and their number one regulator and support system for them.
And so here's what we're going to learn together. First off, you're going to understand, why is it so hard? Maybe you're interested in what to do in stressful moments. And then, of course, one of the probably most exciting parts of these is how. So I have this new information. How do I apply this in real time when the struggle is happening? And let's not get it twisted. The struggle is real a lot of times. And as a school psychologist and as a speech language pathologist, we know that there's kind of three main times of day in which children are struggling. And that's morning routines, after school, and in the evening. So we're going to give you some laser focused strategies that you can do during those times.
But first, we're going to actually dive in, no pun intended or pun intended, to looking below the waterline. This is a huge mindset shift that I learned years and years ago before I even had kids, and it's really helped me as a parent to dive in and see what's going on, get curious, and dive in to see what's going on underneath the waterline. Because, and I love this as a speech and language pathologist and communication expert, is all behavior is some sort of communication. So on the outside, you might see, the crying, the biting of the nails, the twirling of the hair, the shutting down, the big behavior, avoiding situations, whatever it might be. That's only the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot going on underneath the waterline for this huge iceberg that we can get curious about and support. And then it changes the mindset of when we're thinking below the waterline, we can reframe our child's behavior and not judging them to think about we always say, they're giving me a hard time. Don't give me such a hard time. They are actually having a hard time. It might be lagging skills. It might be anxiety. It might be overthinking and processing. Whatever it might be, they are struggling in some sort of way. And that is causing this tip of the iceberg behavior, that clashing of forces, as Dr. Ross Green likes to say, that we see on the outside that can be really stressful for them and us, because we are sharing energy back and forth consistently.
So how do you know your child's having a hard time? We have a lovely little metaphor with you that we'd love to share, and we have some friends that are going to help us along. Okay, we're going to talk about our friend the porcupine and our friend the turtle. Did he just give him a kiss? Oh, that's nice. All right, so we have two ways, a very fun way to talk about something that actually can be very not fun in the moment, which is the way in which kids show us they're having a hard time. This is when they're in brainstem, that fight or flight or freeze reaction. So oftentimes we'll see the fighting, right? Like, oh, it's time to do your homework. I hate homework, right? Or sometimes you may say it's time to do your homework and you might get withdrawal, right? Or shutdowns, or not talking to you, or going to their room. Sometimes you can have a turtle pine, a little of both, throwing little quills at you, but also withdrawing. So we know when we see this reaction, you can think about it next time your kid is acting out or shutting down, if they're being more porcupiney or more turtling. The reframe is they are having a stress reaction. And when you are in brainstem, in that fight, flight, freeze, you're not in your frontal lobe, where thinking and reasoning and planning and all the things kids need to do to, perform the tasks that they need to perform occur. So we want to reframe it as a stress reaction. And this is one of the biggest things, Elizabeth, as a parent for me. It really folds into that. They are not giving me a hard time. They are having a stress reaction. And my response is more empathic, and I do things a little bit differently.
And that's what we want to go in today, is talking about how we can be the wise owls. And also, so we can tap into our own wisdom, which we talk a lot about in our wise model, and center ourselves so that we can find that wisdom in the moment and outside of these challenging moments, and also tap into our child's wisdom, because they have a lot to share with us as well, knowing what works best for them in their own needs. So what we're thinking about in these stress moments, being the wise owl and getting ourselves centered, we have 3 C's that we want to share with you that are going to help in these challenging times of day, morning, noon, and night.
Let's get to it.
So first and foremost is the calm. Just calm the cortisol.
So calming the cortisol, this is a stress hormone. So what you want to do when you see porcupine or turtle friends is being that owl. So we understand, like, you're going to get your feathers ruffled because, like, you're a human and you have feelings too. And if your child is yelling at you, you might be really, neurologically pre-programmed to just kind of get back and you turn into a porcupine, and then we got 2 porcupines in the room. So we understand first off and validate that, yes, it is absolutely stressful for you too. And because of this concept called mirror neurons, the spooky sci-fi lesson we teach in our online course, you're going to be picking up their energy. So when they're porcupining, your, sort of knee-jerk neurological reaction is to also porcupine. So we want to be the wise owl, and we want to sort of find that space in between reacting, right? What's happening and reacting. And if you can find that space, you can respond instead of react. And so that's what calming the cortisol is bringing your calm when your child is porcupining or turtling. We know it's challenging, but we got you.
Self-compassion too, because they are challenging situations. And then the second C is to get curious, which is what we talked about before, is going underneath the waterline. Behavior is communication, and we want to see what's going on in that moment. And we can, be detectives in observing and being able to notice what's happening right then, and then maybe collaborating and communicating with your child outside of the situation to get curious with them, to ask them what is going on. So what we're talking about here is getting curious and not furious, and then leaning into the last C. The mindset shift before, we're thinking about this instead of how many times have we thought about this? Why can't my child just pick up their clothes, go to bed, make their lunch, whatever it might be? You can get curious. Well, maybe it's they're sluggish in the morning, or having trouble with transition, or worried about school, or didn't get enough sleep, or feeling anxious. So get curious about what's going on, besides judgmental, which can calm ourselves down to just have that mindset shift in itself.
Yeah, it's sort of like if your kid has a fever, you don't get mad at them for having a fever. You see what's below the waterline and what's happening. So getting curious about that behavior when you see that tip of the iceberg, what's underneath that? And we're going to give you some strategies for that, both morning, noon, and night.
Stress reactions. Yep. And then the third C here is co-regulation and connecting. So this is, you can see in this image right here, where the parent is getting down to her level and really, maybe this is a child that likes that touch and the lower tone of voice and the slower pacing, and just really validating feelings, maybe seeing if there's some foundational needs that might need to be met, whether that's hunger or movement, shaking, or just even that connection piece can be the foundational need. Maybe it's some water. My son is here's a cheese stick and have a glass of water, and then so much better. And remembering that this is a stress reaction from the behavior you're seeing on the outside is that communication. So these behaviors show a need for that co-regulation. And like you said, it can be that fever, or that ding, 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 that alarm. And it's like, oh, here I am with my wise owl. I can take a deep breath and show up in a way that can be calming and co-regulating.
So co-regulation is when individuals are in sync with each other. This is from Stuart Shanker, who I know you've read a lot of his work. Basically, kind of with the up or down regulating each other. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, when your child is having a hard time and they're porcupining, you bring the wise, calm owl. Or if your child's turtling and too slow, maybe you can kind of bring some of that extra energy up. So it's upping and downing that energy level.
It's like turning on that spa music to or classical music, whatever calms the whole house. In our house, it's singing bowls, or your pump it up playlist, whatever it might be. And it just helps us to be able to think in this term. And, oftentimes we need this for ourselves as well before we can go in and be this for our children. So that's why we start with the calm. But this is the third C. And now we're going to jump in.
Oh my God, this is the juice, everybody. This is what you signed up for. How are you going to apply this in real time? So we've got some mindset shifts, mm-hmm. right? About how, why this is happening. What can we do to be curious and co-regulate, and the 3 C's. Now, what do you actually do in real time when the stressful moment is happening? So now we're going to apply those 3 C's you just learned into 3 times of day. And I'm going to start with mornings, okay? We're going to do morning, noon, and night.
Mornings, woo! These can be really challenging times for our kids and for us too. Maybe we're not morning people. And so we have to be thinking about our own needs first when it comes to calm. And maybe that looks like, for you, it's waking up early in the morning and doing morning breathing, or taking your warm and cold shower.
Coffee.
That's Rebecca's secret sauce, is to coffee. And for me, it's just having that space to get myself organized, make sure that I'm not checking email before I am showing up and having breakfast with my son, and taking care of the things that I need to the night before, because lately I've been needing a lot more sleep. And so I need to get organized the night before with potentially making sure that there's food and things out for lunch, and I'm getting my day organized so that I can be that calm, wise owl and share my feeling of comfort to my son. And so we're taking care of my own needs, and then also before I can then jump in to take care of his needs. And then the second C is curious, and what this looks like in the morning is like, if my son is struggling to get up, if I hear that alarm going off and he's not getting up, I'm thinking, did he oversleep? Is he feeling a little bit sluggish? Is he hungry? Maybe he wants his morning shake in his room, and I can, maybe he needs that pump it up music, whatever it might be. Or if he's coming out just kind of like with his scowl on his face, I think oftentimes, well, maybe it's a social situation that's going on, and then I check in later. I noticed you were looking a little bit ruffled with your feathers in the morning, and it turns out that it's actually an after-school situation that he doesn't want to do, or a retest. Take on a test that he has to do. I have a high school son right now. So getting curious to know that is what's going on for him in that moment or outside of the moment, so that we can then be proactive in supporting. And then that co-regulation in the morning is a lot of, I can give choices, I can co-regulate with movement. We have our morning song that we like to play and have a little dance it out, or if I can tell that he might need a little bit more of that spa music or the singing bowls, I can ask him and give him the choices. And then just talking about the plan, for after school, what's going on, what's the plan, that planning ahead, that future sketch of what the day should look like, setting your intentions, and just checking in with emotions. And what's going on right now is, checking in, just ask him what's going on right now, and helping him determine how I can be that support for him in the moment. And it's being centered myself. And it's not selfish, and it's not self-centered. It's being centered myself so I can show up with that curious mind and being able to help him co-regulate in these moments of challenge for transitioning to school.
So Elizabeth's just dropped a whole suite of strategies on the menu for you. I just want to point out that at the end of this webinar, you will be able to get this handout, calming your child and yourself morning, noon, and night. So all of those juicy tips that she just offered will be in your handout. So don't feel like you need to scribble down copious notes. Really, we have these strategies for you available in the handout. But now I'm going to talk a little bit about after school. Okay. So as a parent, you might have this experience where perhaps your child kind of holds it together all day long, and maybe they're having a hard time, really just pulling it together, and then they just melt down, like either on the way home, in the car, when they get home. And the reason they're doing that is actually a kind of a backwards compliment. It's because they love and trust that they can be themselves around you. So that's why you get all the good stuff after school. And that's why it's so hard. And then sometimes kids have to ramp up to do homework and chores and things. It can be a lot, but we got you. So let's talk about the 3 C's as it relates to after school. And you might have a young one and you're really, very involved in their homework. And you might have, like, say, a tween or teen who, maybe is more porcupine turtling in the room and struggling with homework. So let's talk about calm first. So, as Elizabeth talked about, we want to really make sure that we're in the right headspace to take care of our needs before your child comes home or before you start interacting. You can pause to set an intention, like, okay, when my kid comes home or when I pick them up or when I see them, I'm going to be, intending to connect with them. And this is one of the biggest things is that, when you see this sort of porcupine or turtling, remembering it's a stress reaction. One of the things that I love to do, it's one of my favorite tools, is the one for me, one for you breath. And I know Elizabeth uses this as well, is that you start with yourself. Okay, this is difficult. And then one for your child. This is difficult for them too. And it gives you just that mindful pause to respond instead of react. Because let's face it, maybe at the end of the day, you're tired and you're dysregulated and you've had a day. And so it's giving yourself that self-compassion and then giving that to your child. They're not giving you a hard time. They're also having a hard time. The second C around curiosity is my favorite technique it's a non-judgmental technique called notice and explore. Have you used this before?
Tell me about it.
Okay, so if I notice that my teen here has a book on her face and is not doing their work, and it's kind of, we're getting aggravated or agitated because we know, like, we need to get this show on the road, you can say, look, I noticed that you have a book on your face and your eyes are closed. What's up? Instead of being like, why aren't you doing your homework? Because that'll send them straight into brainstem, and then you got a porcupine on your hands, right? So you can also be an energy detective, like in this situation. Like, what would give you more energy right now? Or if they're really amped up, what would give you a calm mind to focus on your work right now? Let's troubleshoot this together. For chores, which we know can be also like a battleground, what's your plan for completing? What's your plan for us in our house? What's your dog poop cleaning up plan, right? We want a dog, right? Okay, we have to be responsible for it. And then you know what happens, right? What's your dog cleaning up plan, poop plan? And they say, well, I'm going to do it after this or that. I'm like, great. So what's your plan can also help them, like, break down their afternoon, what they need to do. And then lastly, co-regulate. So one of the most, surefire ways to connect with your child is just to spend 10 minutes, just even 10 minutes, connecting with them one-on-one, if possible, on something that they're interested in. And just sitting down with them, and just that connection is protection from stress. So just 10 minutes of having a snack together or doing whatever it is you do, it's really can be helpful for your afternoons. And then also practicing what Elizabeth, and I'll let you speak to this, calls feel-good breaks. And not just when your kid really needs it, but beforehand, doing feeling check-ins. How are you feeling? You can do this non-verbally if your child has struggles with verbal expression. Point to the picture of how your day was at school. Things like that can really help connect to your child. And when you're connected, you're more likely to be able to move through your afternoon with less struggle.
Yep. Feel-good breaks are great for all the time, not just when there's a reaction happening or a break needed. Let's jump into talking about evenings, nighttime routines. And this can be challenging because kids aren't like a dial, or they're more like a dial and not a switch to, like, turn off, turn on, turn off. And there's lots going on and ramping up, and maybe siblings or meal times, whatever, that's really stimulating. And then all of a sudden, bedtime. So thinking about what this could look like, and turning off the homework and then the worries, we're thinking about a test, and then just one more story, whatever it might be. Let's talk about the 3 C's and how we can turn this around and have a way we can dial down the evening and get some sound sleep, which we know is a rinse and repeat for success for the next day in starting the morning and being able to wake up with a better transition. So it's all a system and a plan for it working together with the gears all going smoothly. So calming, this is where we're thinking about calming ourselves, and we can create this routine for the whole family, including yourself, what that could look like. Maybe it's time alone, maybe it's time together, maybe it's mindful breathing, maybe it's doing the Calm app or Headspace together. And realizing that, when one more story or not now, or the jumping on the bed, whatever it might be, it's attention seeking, not, it's for attention seeking. And they're not attention seeking, it's connection seeking. And so same with connection is protection. We're thinking about how we can validate feelings and connect with them so that they can wind down and know that they're safe.
Yeah, I just want to flag why nights are so difficult. With my kids, if I say time to get your pajamas on, in their brain they hear let's get ready to rumble.
Yep.
They get so amped up and things like that. So it's really important to have a family routine. And then what you spoke to earlier about why nights are so hard, I think it's important to flag because your needs are different.
Yep.
You've had a long day of doing all the adult things and you're ready for
break.
decompressing and a break, and your kids might be pulling for connection. One more story, I need a glass of water. And if you can just stop in that calm, mindful pause and be like, okay, they're not attention seeking, they're not giving me a hard time, they're connection seeking, and giving just a little bit of connection. And just recognizing your needs are different at night, and that's sometimes where the tension is, right?
Yep, and that leads right into the curiosity. The second C in this is what is going on with that, behavior, whether that's they're pulling at you or asking for one more book or sibling stuff going on. It's what's going on with that? What is this challenge all about? And you can have them again rate a scale of their emotions and their levels of energy, and how you could then ask them. Co-collaborate with them and figure out what it might be to calm the brain down and talk to them about how important it is to get that sleep so that you can feel comfortable and start turning down that dial to be able to get the sleep that you need. And notice when the challenges occur, and you can get curious and take a little bit of data to figure out what that might be. So maybe there's some certain foods that really ramp your child up, or maybe if there is a test the next day or a spelling bee or something going on with the friendships, that might be a time where they're really struggling to go to bed because they know now is the time we have to deal with it tomorrow. So, and then we can lean in with this co-regulation in really helping them with seeing that behavior is communication. And if they're having a hard time, how can we change the channel? And maybe it's a worry box. Maybe we put our little worry dolls underneath our pillow. Maybe we write in a note and put it in the worry box. Maybe we do a body scan to figure out where it is in our body, where we're having that pit in our stomach of anxiety and what that's all about, and having to journal about it or calm ourselves down into, there's different types of books, but a lot of them are ramping up in terms of creativity in the mind, and some books can really be dialing down for calming. So thinking about what that co-regulation can look like, and if you are needing a break, knowing that is something that you can work out taking with your child, and maybe it's an audible book that they're listening to, or a sound or some music that they're listening to at nighttime to calm themselves down, or listening to that white noise in ways that you can take your break, or you can both be doing a body scan together or a meditation together, so that you're sharing your needs as getting that connection time, but also that co-regulation time. And just so you know, this is a lot of information, but it's on your handout that we are giving to you as our free download. So don't worry about that. And we can talk a little bit more about how we can support you as well.
So we want to give you some tangible, practical things that you can use today, tonight, with your kids. First, like we've mentioned, the morning, noon, and night cheat sheet, the calming yourself and your child. So we'll be giving you these morning, noon, and night downloads with all the tools and tips that we just shared with you. So you can try them on for size. And Elizabeth made a really great point. I just want to plus one, which is we're taking data. We're getting curious with our own parenting too. What works, what isn't. Not shaming or judging ourselves for it didn't work, I tried it, but really being sort of a detective with your own child and noticing when things do go well.
Yep,
we are evolutionarily pre-programmed to scan for all the worst nights we had and remember those and forget about, well, that actually was easy for her to go down tonight. Why was that? What were the conditions? So getting curious about what's working and what isn't, and taking an experimental lens. And again, with your child too, I always call it the try-in before the buy-in. You might be in that same space. All right, I've tried that before and it didn't work. We often hear that. And she's talking, in her book about making it stick parenting. Well, we have a whole course and community called Make It Stick Parenting, where we will guide you through some of these top challenges that parents have, particularly parents who have children who are neurodivergent. We also have for you a very fun and exciting neurodiversity affirming coloring page about really embracing the differences we have as individuals and as our kids. We're looking at really supporting them and nurturing this neurodiversity.
And focusing on strengths and their areas of interest. So thank you so much for being here, and we hope that you enjoy these handouts, and until
we'll see
next
you later.
time.